Thanks for staying with us right here on Sunrise as we continue this Thursday morning. Now, auditing firms such as the KPMG and Sizwe and Gobodo have found themselves in the spotlight recently for being associated with the infamous Gupta family and their companies which are being investigated for money laundering and other financial fraud. What exactly does this mean for the ethics that our accountants hold in the country, and has the trust that the South Africans public have in these accounting and auditing firms been tarnished? Now, joining us in studio for a conversation, we are with the CEO of Charterquest, Valentine Nti. Remember, you can be part of our conversation by giving us a call on 01144711742 or 1620. And your comments are also welcome on our Facebook and Twitter pages this morning. Good morning to you, Sam. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Penny. Good morning to your listeners.
Now, in terms of the recent developments with all these accounting firms, conversations or questions have been raised around ethics within that financial space. So how do you answer to that? I mean, accountancy ethics, what is that and does it exist?
Well, I think it's a topical issue right now. Yes, there is clearly a lot of developments, and the trend seems to be getting more and more frightening. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important to point out that as we take stock of what is going on in the country, it's far easy to raise flags about what has come out, but not also see what the profession has done to ensure a lot of things do not get up to this point in terms of the ethics part of. But to be precise, ethics is basically your moral compass. It's either you bring it from your parental upbringing, or the profession has to emphasize that as part of its training and hope that future finance professionals can behave in a manner that is consistent with what the public actually expects. So in principle, you're looking at issues of professionalism, issues of integrity, issues of professional behavior and due care, issues of confidentiality, issues of objectivity. Those are the things that the accounting profession hones very seriously and make sure that finance professionals abide by when they come out and practice in the industry.
So you work closely a lot with future financial practitioners because you guys are involved in the training.
That's correct.
Okay, so just give us a brief overview of exactly how you guys deal with that.
All right. Effectively, what we do is we groom future finance leaders. In the area of accounting and finance, you have different strands of accounting and finance. There is management accounting, there is financial accounting, there's auditing, there's taxation. There are various active professional bodies that are active in the space. For instance, CIMA on the management accounting side, ACCA on the financial reporting side. SICA itself is the biggest and the most dominant one. Some of them are global professional bodies, some of them are very, very regional. But you have different practitioners, future finance professionals, choosing these various different careers. We actually train them. But one thing which is common between all these professional bodies, they all have a very strong code of ethics that emphasizes the need for a finance professional to behave in a manner that's consistent with public expectations. So issues of dishonesty and the rest is widely across the board not tolerated.
So with the recent happenings, I mean, McKinsey, I think, is also part of the group of companies that are under discussion. KPMG, I also mentioned, Sizwe and Ntsaluba. All these professional bodies and those future financial practitioners, what is the response on the ground? What is the feeling? Has it gotten you questioning yourself on some of those moral codes that you're supposed to be guided by?
Look, as you've seen, for instance, SICA has come out and has launched an investigation on the case of KPMG. Things like this, a due process needs to be followed. It needs to be investigated so that the various disciplinary committees of the various boards where these members come from, they apply their minds to the facts. So yes, the profession is worried because we see ourselves as the moral compass of society. The public expects us to behave in a manner that is consistent with their expectation. So the profession is worried. The trend is going more and more. I think more can be done in terms of honing how finance professionals are trained. We seem to focus more on the professional ethics and not realizing that professional ethics is just one strand of the broader business ethics. Fine, you can be trained about how to apply your mind from a due professional care point of view, integrity and honesty point of view, as far as the accountancy profession is concerned. But once you get into the industry, you start moving towards the higher echelons of business, like CEO, where decision-making is more strategic. A whole range of the ethical issues, they become more complex than just the narrow professional ethics. So I think that's what the professional bodies need to do more in terms of honing.
Okay. Now, a lot of people have also sort of like been questioning or asking this in recent time. Who audits the auditors?
That's a good one. Obviously, if you look at the industry, you would, for instance, the typical CSA professional, whilst he's regulated by SICA, is also regulated by EBA. So they also have to comply with guidelines which are set by EBA. EBA is a regulatory body. So you would say EBA audits the auditors and make sure that they behave consistent with the manner that is expected. But just keep in mind that around the world, different countries follow different models in terms of, there's what is called self-regulation, there is also what is called enforced regulation, rule-based versus principle-based. So different countries follow different codes. But in South Africa, you would say the EBA, the regulatory body, does audit the auditor and should do that.
Okay, of course. So we're also inviting you to be part of our conversation. You can give us a call this morning on 011-447-1742 or 011-447-1620. As we continue our chat this morning with CEO of Charterquest, Valentine Nti, looking at, of course, recent developments around the financial practitioners field, auditing companies that have found themselves in some very interesting sticky situations. A lot of also talk is around just how, I guess in this case, KPMG dealt with those senior managers. They just paid them what was due to them, and that was that. How should this be handled? And maybe let's start with, what are the key learnings that we should all get out of the recent developments?
Look, interesting. I'm going to be a bit very controversial. In a typical accounting training program or as an audit training program, you're dealing with, there's one area called dealing with politically exposed persons. And it's something that a lot of the schools and the curriculum hones a lot on it. We have the case of the Gupta family and all these issues coming up. It's very clear that the Gupta family is a politically exposed person if you look at the textbook definition of what a typical account history. And there are clear guidelines in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do. So I myself am intrigued as to how, having gone through a rigorous program of that nature, you deal with such things, pass all your exams, so you know exactly what needs to happen. And then we're caught wanting in terms of this. But you ask the question, what is it more that can be done? In my mind, I think the sooner the profession shifts ethics from being a module to integrating that within the fibers of all the modules that, because Penny, here's what I'm trying to get to. When you go into business, you make decisions. You're making decisions to grow the value of your shareholders or to grow your profits. Inherent in that process of making decisions to grow your profits, that's where all the ethical challenges come. So as long as we continue to train people on ethics as a subject, separate from the commercial things that you do in business, we're going to keep having these problems. So we need to integrate, move back ethics as a model, integrate that within the fiber of all the training, and make sure that even within the audit and accounting firms and the rest, all the ethical conduct and guidelines, they're integrated in their decision-making process.
But I mean, how will that translate in sort of like in a regular firm? Or because you deal with training, but how does it translate in a regular firm on a daily basis?
How does it translate to?
In a firm on a daily basis, like at work, in that workspace, so that those ethics, it's a practice that's adhered to on a daily basis.
It's a good one. I think we need to move away. First of all, most of these companies will have what is called their code of ethics, their values. They enshrine that in their mission and vision statement. Zero tolerance. We cannot do this. We cannot do this. The challenge has always been how to translate the values and the missions to the day-to-day practice, as you're asking. A lot of time it's a nice-to-have statement there, which is put on the websites and on our Facebook pages and all those sort of things. But I think what needs to happen is to make sure it is embedded. The recruitment, it starts with the recruitment processes, the background checks that you do. And once people have joined into the organization, how you factor their KPAs, their KPIs, those things that you use to regulate right down to the audit level, those things that need to be emphasized more. And it almost needs to become an agenda item for sub-meetings within departments at the level of the exco. And the CEO himself needs to constantly, because it's always said the rod starts from the top. It starts with the tone at the top. If the CEO or the leaders of the organizations do not only display that by virtue of what they stand for and ensure that at all levels that is practiced, then it becomes difficult to embed that.
Well, you're in a space, of course, where you work with future financial practitioners, and I hear that you're currently training some, and you're giving an opportunity to some of them?
A competition. Yes, in fact, it reflects some of these challenges we're seeing. We do run a global case study competition, which is called the Future CFO Case Study Competition. Effectively, we bring in universities from all over the world to say, let's give the average South African university, average young person studying in finance. The world is becoming very globalized, and there are now no boundaries in terms of the finance profession. So we wanted to be sure that universities in South Africa and high school young people who aspire to become future CFOs, they have a chance to compete with the best in the world. So we're actually running that competition. We're now in the finals. It's happening at the JSC today and at the Sandton Convention Center tomorrow. We have teams from Germany, teams from Indonesia, teams from China, teams from Nigeria, different parts of the world who have made it to the finals. They come in to showcase and demonstrate what the finance profession looks like in their various countries and what they are capable of doing at the world stage.
And I'm sure this is probably a case study that young people will be looking at. So they're already here. There's no need. It's not a case of like who qualifies, how they can be part of it. You've already selected them.
Yes, we do it every year. So it started with almost 300 teams, 1,500. They go through a process before we finally get to the final 6. It's an interesting case study. It's based on a South African mining company that is faced with a lot of challenges, ethical challenges, commercial challenges, threats and opportunities. How do you bring together all the things you've been learning from school and balance the commercial side and the ethical side to inform the board what is the best way to move forward?